What if I told you that a $2 trillion empire began in the passenger seat of an old car? In 1994, while crossing the United States, a man sat beside his wife typing a business plan on a laptop as endless highways passed by. That plan would later become Amazon, a company that now generates over $1 million every single minute. But this is not a typical success story. It's a story of rejection, unconventional decisions, and a long-term vision so extreme that Wall Street once laughed it off. From a childhood shaped by instability to a career he willingly abandoned at the peak of success, Jeff Bezos didn't just build a company, he rewrote the rules of global commerce. In this video, we'll break down the hidden logic behind Amazon's rise, the risky leap into the early internet, the brutal years of loss, the moment Amazon survived the dot-com collapse, and how it quietly transformed itself into the infrastructure powering the modern digital world. So before you think you understand Amazon, you might want to look beneath the surface. The roots of genius and a business plan on the passenger seat, 1964 to 1994. The saga of a $2 trillion empire didn't ignite in a high-tech laboratory or a mahogany boardroom. It began in the passenger seat of a beat-up Chevy Blazer. In 1994, while crossing the vast American landscape, Jeff Bezos tapped out the foundational business plan for Amazon on a primitive laptop. Today, that vision generates a staggering $1.2 million every single minute, but the journey to such dominance was anything but conventional. To understand the audacity of Amazon, one must look back at Albuquerque in 1964. Jeff was born into a precarious situation. His mother, Jackie, was a teenage high school student working as a secretary, and his biological father was a circus performer who vanished before Jeff could even walk. The trajectory of his life shifted when Mike Bezos, a Cuban immigrant, married Jackie and adopted Jeff. Mike didn't just give Jeff a new last name, he provided a stable foundation and a first-hand example of the immigrant work ethic, a relentless drive that would later become the very DNA of Amazon. Even as a child, Jeff displayed a blend of high-level logic and eccentric ambition. He was the type of student who didn't just ace exams, he obsessed over the mechanics of the future. During his high school graduation speech, while his peers talked about summer plans, Jeff declared his dream of building space hotels and orbital amusement parks. Eventually, he moved on to Princeton University, where he graduated valedictorian with a dual major in electrical engineering and computer science. He wasn't just a typical tech geek. He was a man whose brain ran on pure data, massive amounts of caffeine, and a level of ambition that bordered on the uncomfortable. Before he was the world's most famous founder, Jeff Bezos was a rising star on Wall Street. By age 30, he had ascended to the position of senior vice president at D.E. Shaw, a secretive and highly prestigious hedge fund known for its quant approach to the markets. It was a world of nice suits, high-stakes finance, and intellectual elitism. It was also where he met Mackenzie Tuttle. Their relationship moved with the same efficiency as his business models, leading to an engagement just 3 months after their first date. However, the comfortable life of a finance executive was shattered by a single statistic. While researching the burgeoning world of telecommunications, Jeff discovered that the World Wide Web was growing at a staggering 2,300% per year. To a man who thought in terms of data and trajectories, this wasn't just a trend, it was a tectonic shift. He realized that the World Wide Web was about to become a gravitational force, and he needed to find escape velocity before the window of opportunity closed. Bezos approached the problem with cold, surgical logic. He created a spreadsheet of 20 potential products to sell online, ranging from computer software to office supplies. Ultimately, he chose books. His reasoning was purely tactical. There were millions of titles in print, far more than any physical bookstore could ever stock. Books were easy to ship, didn't break, and were already standardized. As he later described it, books were the perfect gateway drug to lure consumers into the world of e-commerce. When he told his boss he was quitting to sell books on the internet, the response was a polite warning. That sounds like a great idea for someone who doesn't already have a good job. Undeterred, Jeff chose the regret minimization framework. He imagined himself at 80 years old looking back. He knew he wouldn't regret failing at a startup, but he would forever regret never trying. With that, he and Mackenzie packed their lives into a Chevy Blazer and headed for Seattle, the burgeoning tech hub of the Northwest. Arriving in Seattle in the summer of 1994, Jeff Bezos didn't set up shop in a skyscraper. He started in a garage in Bellevue with $10,000 in seed money and his parents' entire retirement fund. The office was famously Spartan, featuring desks made out of wooden doors bolted to 2x4s, a symbol of frugality that remains a core Amazon value to this day. Every penny saved on furniture was a penny that could be reinvested into the customer experience. The company almost had a very different identity. Bezos' first choice for a name was Cadabra, from abracadabra. However, he quickly scrapped the idea after a lawyer misheard it over the phone as cadaver, a corpse. He also considered Relentless, a name he loved so much he bought the domain. To this day, Relentless.com still redirects to Amazon. Eventually, he settled on Amazon. He chose it because it was the largest river in the world, mirroring his ambition to create the largest store in the world, and because it started with the letter A, ensuring it would appear at the top of alphabetized web directories. When the website launched in July 1995, it was a chaotic, bare-bones operation. Despite the lack of polish, the value proposition was undeniable: convenience and selection. In those early days, Bezos installed a bell that would ring every time a sale was made. Within weeks, the bell was ringing so frequently that they had to turn it off. Orders were pouring in from all 50 U.S. states and 45 different countries. Bezos' strategy during this era was summarized in 3 words: get big fast. He was obsessed with scale over profit. He knew that in the digital world, the first mover to achieve massive scale would own the market. This led to a culture of extreme urgency. Employees worked around the clock, packing books on their hands and knees on concrete floors, until Bezos finally had the brilliant idea to buy packing tables. By 1997, Amazon went public. While Wall Street was skeptical of a company that lost money on every book it sold, Bezos remained unmoved, famously telling shareholders in his first letter, "It's all about the long term." By the late 90s, Amazon had evolved from a bookstore into a digital juggernaut, expanding into CDs, toys, and electronics. Bezos was no longer just a bookseller, he was a disruptor. However, the true test of his long-term philosophy arrived in March 2000. The dot-com bubble burst, and the euphoria of the digital gold rush turned into a bloodbath.
$100.
Amazon's stock price plummeted from over $100
$6.
to a measly $6. Critics
Are you
sharpened
serious?
their knives, and headlines mockingly labeled the company Amazon.bomb, predicting bankruptcy within months. While other tech giants vanished into digital oblivion, Bezos went surgical. He slashed costs, optimized operations, and tightened the belt, but he refused to stop innovating. This period of crisis birthed Amazon Marketplace, a move that many thought was suicidal. By inviting third-party sellers to compete directly against Amazon's own inventory on the same platform, Bezos was essentially welcoming enemies into his home. But his logic was flawless. More sellers meant more selection, which meant more customers, which ultimately lowered prices for everyone. In 2005, Bezos launched his most audacious psychological weapon, Amazon Prime. For a flat annual fee of $79, customers received unlimited 2-day shipping. Financial analysts were horrified, calling it a money pit that would bleed the company dry through shipping costs. They failed to see the flywheel effect. Prime transformed the consumer's brain. Once you paid for Prime, you felt a subconscious obligation to use it. It stopped people from price shopping on Google or driving to Walmart. It wasn't a shipping service, it was a loyalty program that systematically engineered customer behavior to default to Amazon for everything. Simultaneously, Bezos began obsessing over the invisible side of the business. He moved away from the chaotic garage-style logistics toward a hyper-automated empire. Massive fulfillment centers were built, powered by algorithms that tracked every movement of every worker and package. This was no longer just a website, it was a physical machine designed to eliminate the friction between wanting and owning. While Amazon was busy conquering retail, a silent revolution was brewing within its own data centers.
Almost there.
By the mid-2000s, Amazon's internal engineering teams were struggling to keep up with the company's explosive growth. To solve this, they built a modular, elastic infrastructure that allowed developers to rent computing power and storage on demand.
Welcome to
In
AWS.
2006,
The future is
Bezos
here.
decided to sell this internal tool
That's
to
one
the public,
AWS cloud.
launching
Coming
Amazon
right up.
Web Services. At the time, the move baffled Wall Street. Why was a
Books or
bookstore
data?
selling server
I guess
space?
I'll take both.
But AWS became Amazon's most profitable weapon. It eventually powered everything from Netflix and NASA to the CIA. Bezos had effectively built the utility grid for the internet. Even if a company didn't sell products on Amazon, they were likely paying Amazon rent just to exist online. On the consumer front, Bezos took aim at the publishing industry with the Kindle in 2007. He famously told his team, "Your goal is to put everyone selling physical books out of job." The Kindle wasn't just a gadget, it was a way to digitize an entire medium. Within years, Borders went bankrupt, and independent bookstores struggled to survive as Amazon replaced paper with pixels. This era also solidified Amazon's reputation for a bruising corporate culture. Bezos banned PowerPoint, requiring executives to write 6-page narrative memos instead. He believed bullet points hid lazy thinking. His mantra, "Your margin is my opportunity," became a terrifying reality for competitors.
What?
Amazon began
Mine.
using its massive
this right
data
here
to
is our
identify
number one
high-performing
product.
products from
Absolutely
third-party
revolutionary
sellers,
technology.
then launching its
Get
own
yours
Amazon
today.
Basics version at a lower price. Bezos wasn't just
welcome to the
participating in the
grand
market
market,
anymore, he
where
was the
all the
market, the
finest
referee,
things await.
and the lead player all at once.